Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only podcast more inept than the Cardinal front office.
Hey,
My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host Ben Samorka.
low hanging fruit, but you gotta take it. That's
Do this every week and got to come out firing,
Yep.
And this week on the show, we are going to be talking about the losing streak and the current place in the division. We're going to, of course, talk about the controversy swirling around Wilson Contreras. We're going to take a look at all of the recent roster moves, and we're going to chat about the upcoming series against the Red Sox and the upcoming series against the Brewers. If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Hambone, it's been quite a week. How you feeling? How you doing? Yeah.
I don't know. I've had worse weeks, I guess. It's been exciting. I will say, when stuff like this happens, doing the podcast again has kind of shifted my focus on this because I'm kind of like, as the Cardinals fan, which I'm first and foremost, I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. This is absolutely
horrible.
Insane. I did not sign up for this. As somebody who is recording a podcast every week, I think, gimme.
That sweet content we're craving for. Controversy, baby.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And like such a pious and a controversy-free organization like the St. Louis Cardinals doesn't really give us a lot of this. And it has been coming in spades this year. So, the craven part of me is like I said, bring it on. Ollie, say something else stupid. Let's go.
Yeah. Get out there and make a fool of yourself. Get thrown out of the game. That's gonna help. Well, it's been an interesting week. We've got high highs and we've got low lows. Horrible series against the Tigers, and we got a bit of a winning streak.
Hey,
3 games. Positive regression.
Yeah, this is narrative-y type, bullshit that doesn't really mean anything. But there is some sense to the fact that the Cardinals going to Wrigley would kind of like hit the reset button a little bit. Like, the games are always different. They're always a little more intense. It's a good time to hit the mental reset button, so on and so forth. And it's nice to see the Cardinals playing like a real baseball team all of a sudden. I also think like let's not get it twisted. Cardinals were in some really, really bad luck, losing games in ways that didn't make any sense. So like a positive regression to the mean was going to happen because even, a lot of fans are calling for the heads of certain people in the front office and management, but like the team is not that bad. Like Nolan Arenado is not that bad. And, there is I have a little sense of humor around the fact that it did take like Andrew Kisner getting a couple of hits and Paul Goldschmidt to hit 3 home runs in a single game to break it, but they broke the losing streak.
It's there. They did it, and they've started a little winning streak. Got quite the uphill climb to go from here. I kind of feel like that. I'm not a religious man, Ben, but the baseball gods are cruel,
real,
and powerful, and they are real. And I feel like what we've been going through in the last month and a half is a little bit of repayment for the 17-game win streak in 2021, which pulled a mediocre Cardinal team back into the playoff hunt and back into the playoff picture, and also Albert Pujols turning back into a 25-year-old for the last half of last year, cementing the division win last year. So a lot of good luck, came our way in that, and we're on the other side of it. But I don't know, maybe our debt has been paid. Promises made, promises kept. Dan, I
Yeah.
don't know. We'll see.
Sure.
So before we before we really jump in, you dropped a little factoid here in the outline that I want to give it back to you to drop, because this was maybe the most interesting thing I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Well, we talk about food a lot on this podcast. So I thought it was
Yes.
relevant. And I thought, we're going to bitch and moan for a while on this episode. So let's start with something fun. At the same time, I do think, this should be another shot at the front office and at ownership. So keep that in mind. But a report came out earlier this week, kind of looking at the average price of certain food items in baseball stadiums. Pardon me. And I am excited to tell you. I guess the first thing is that the Busch Stadium has the 17th most expensive beer prices, which pretty good, especially when
Pretty
you
good.
think about like we're a beer drinking city. We show up and we show out when it comes to our ice cold Budweiser and all that good stuff. So I think that's nice that they're cutting us a little bit of a break. I was shocked to learn that at LA Dodgers Stadium, it is the way that the article had it broke down was price per ounce. At Dodger Stadium, it is over $1 per ounce for beer, and I think the Cardinals they're around 60 cents. But I
Yeah.
just that
I
that
mean,
is astonishing to me.
that is absurd. I mean, a lot of that is market conditions
Right.
too, right? Or not market conditions, but rather the like cost of living. A beer just in general is cheaper in St. Louis than the Dodgers. But you're wagging a finger at me,
Well,
so
Nate, I'm wagging my finger at you because I could not agree with you more. Of course, it's more expensive to live in LA than it is in St. Louis. That's a fact. Then why, on God's green earth, is a hot dog at Busch Stadium $7.75? That puts it for the third most expensive hot dog in baseball.
bullshit.
That's a crime.
That's a crime.
This should be half that
And
price.
we already know DeWitt's got those beef connections. Why are we got local beer connections, and we
Yep.
got beef coming down from the top.
Yep.
If anything, we should have good priced all beef hot dogs.
Is that so much to
This
ask for?
I'm more mad about this than anything else that I've ever seen.
This is the worst news of the week for Cardinals
This is
fans, I think.
we want to start this show light. We want to talk and have fun on this show, but frankly, these are the questions that need to be asked.
Frankly,
Ballpark, frankly. Yeah.
We're both idiots. Jesus.
We just stopped and like took a deep breath because we were both thinking of the right execution of frankly. All right. Yeah, but seriously, these are the questions that need to be asked. Like, I don't, on the
Hey, I
field
pay
play.
my taxes. I work hard. I got to pay $7.75 for a flipping hot dog. Come
Seriously,
on,
for a
it's
hot dog,
ridiculous.
a hot dog.
How much a hot
Come
dog at the
on.
store? You get 2 packs for $7.75. Jeez.
Yeah. Jeez.
All right. Okay. I just wanted to bring that up. I thought that was interesting. So I guess, really what you should take from that is go to Busch Stadium and fill up on beer. Who needs food?
I'm bringing in my own hot dogs.
Yeah, pocket dogs, baby.
Yeah. I'm selling them. $4. Nate Dogs.
Oh, okay. I'm back on board with Nate Dogs. That's good. Hold up.
Not to be confused with Nathan's hot dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Close, but that's not us.
And the G-Funk Pioneer, Nate Dogg.
Yes, of course. Best hook man ever to live.
There you
R.I.P.
go. Wow.
All right. Wow. Back on track here. Actually, I think this is the most on track this podcast has ever been. Okay, let's get back to baseball.
Yeah.
So Cardinals have a wee bit of a losing streak. We've been taking a look at what this early May, late April losing streak has done to the Cardinals playoff odds, which of course can change any given week, hot streak, whatever. We've seen even in the last few years, the Cardinals have playoff odds that seemed insurmountable. Only for them to come back, but it's starting to get pretty grim as we get into May with such a sub 500 record. Ben, what are some of the numbers we've got here?
Yeah, and I think it is important to contextualize everything, right? And this this losing streak was really, really bad. And it cut essentially the Cardinals' playoff odds, according to Fangraphs, in half, maybe even more than in half. But the good news is the Cardinals play in a pretty weak division. Anyways, I did want to throw out a couple of numbers coming off the Fangraphs projections for the remainder of the year. Because of the poor play of the Cardinals, we are now projected to have 61 and 65 for the remaining games. Obviously, that's 126 games remaining in the schedule, and that's a sub 500 winning record. I don't think that that's going to be true. I would be shocked, actually, if the Cardinals run that. It also has them at a minus 21 run differential. And this is not for the season. This is for that remaining 126 games. And I would actually today place a decently large bet that the Cardinals will have a positive run differential for the remainder of the year, even with the pitching. The offense is going to pick up. We feel good about the bullpen. And like I said, regression to the mean positively is coming. So I think that it's, while the projection systems are taking into account, obviously they are only looking at numbers and they're essentially extrapolating the performance that the Cardinals have done this year. But we could go up and down the lineup. But I think the way to really illustrate this point is Nolan Arenado is not going to be the worst hitter in baseball all year. And if that does happen, there are much larger problems that the Cardinals need to worry about in the sum of like $160 million over a few years. So I think that's interesting. Another couple of numbers I want to throw out is lowered their chance to win the division to 17%, with the Pirates and Brewers currently projected to be over them, which hurts my stomach a little bit to see the Pirates there. But that is what a hot start does for you. And then they are at a 25% to make the playoffs. So I really just kind of wanted to go down that to this. This is what happens when you have a losing streak so long and you're playing so poorly for that long this early in the season, is that it really makes those numbers look really, really bad, really, really quickly. Which is too bad, I guess.
And a lot. I mean, that 25% chance to make the playoffs feels high right now. I mean, I know these last 3 games have been fun and been good, and we're recording before the Wednesday night game in Chicago, so we don't know the outcome of that. But I think as a collective fan base, if you said the Cardinals still have a 25% chance to make the playoffs, you're getting a lot of rights, a lot of like no ways, and it's hard to disagree with that. It's been the worst start in Cardinal history by a ton of metrics. So the idea that they could even possibly still make the playoffs feels ridiculous. But the truth is, go on.
Yeah, it does. It does feel insane, especially with how bad they've been playing. And I think it really speaks to the weakness of this division. That is what is helping the Cardinals out. And I think my favorite fact of the day right now is the fact that the Cardinals are actually 1 game closer to winning their division than the New York Yankees. The New York Yankees are 20 and 17.
Yeah, get them.
Now, obviously, the Rays have had this crazy start. It's a different division. It's a totally different world in the AL East. But that is a fact. So it is mathematically easier for the Cardinals to jump in the standings than the New York Yankees. And I would say, obviously, I think that if you put Tampa Bay, Baltimore, Toronto, Boston, or New York in the NL Central, they'd be running away with the division. So it's obviously a much easier task for the Cardinals to leapfrog some of those teams. And I also think that, if you're a Cardinals fan sitting here today, I think you could say quite confidently that the Pirates are overplaying themselves. I think that the Cubs, we've talked about this numerous times, they're overplaying a little bit. We also expect them to start selling at some point. But I think the Cardinals leapfrogging those teams over the next 5 months is not insane. And I think that's where that 25% comes from, is it is truly the strength of the division, the lack of strength in the division, I guess.
Well, the expected strength of the Cardinals versus the expected strength of the teams that are ahead of them. And I mean, it feels like the Cubs are playing really well. You're seeing a lot of fun highlights, etc. But they're 2 games under 500 themselves, and the expected real competitor in the division, the Milwaukee Brewers, they're doing fine. They're 4 games over 500. I think that they're right around where everyone expected them to be. So you do assume some regression from the Pirates, and we hope for some positive regression from the Cardinals, and we might still end up with a pretty good division race. But that division race is looking more like 285 win teams, and the chance of either of them slipping below 500 and losing the division is on the table all season. I think at this point it's fair to say, like, this is not a team that, even if we get the best outcomes for the rest of the season, is surpassing 85, 86 wins. So we really need the Brewers to continue this sort of, stuttering performance. We need the Pirates to regress, and we need everything to click again for the Cardinals to return to what they were expected. And there's a lot of hope in there, and there's a lot of real. It feels unlikely, and I think it is. But as you've said, we can point to clear areas of improvement that we should expect some positive regression. We just need the starting pitching to do something to get it together. Because even in this little winning streak, which we're going to talk about a little bit, like, it's not on the backs of the starting pitching, right? So
no, it really hasn't been. And I think before we start talking about that, I did want to talk about, or before we start talking about the losing or the kind of the drama that's happened around the Cardinals, I did, and I think hopefully we don't spend too much time on that, because I think I could fill up 2 entire shows. But I did want to talk about a couple of quick Cardinals news as far as pitching goes. Waino has his first start back. Looked okay for the most part. I think what's exciting is that he went 5 innings, which the Cardinals will take that all the way to the bank right now. And he didn't walk anybody. Now, not the most sterling report I've ever given Adam Wainwright, but I think that's
in
positive.
This economy.
Hey,
in this economy, I'll take it. 5 innings, no walks.
Yeah.
What more can we ask for?
Yeah, 4 earned runs. All the peripheral numbers look good. You just got hit around a little bit. But I think, we all know Waino. I think we know what to expect. And honestly, if he sits around a 4, a 3.75, somewhere around that, the ERA, that is a huge boon to this team. Just being able to get to 5 or 6 innings and not getting absolutely destroyed is going to be great. Or, whatever the hell Jack Flaherty is doing right now, starting games. So really, really happy to have Waino back. Definitely a step in the right direction. And then, like as Kelsey Bird might say, like, the vibes. We're helping the vibes. Waino is key in that. And I'm like, I have pre-anxiety about him not being here next year. What is the clubhouse going to be without Adam Wainwright?
I know. Who knows what's true and what's not, what's just narrative bullshit. But a lot of things are being pointed right now to, like, there's no Wainwright, or there's no Yachty. Like, there's no Yachty. We need Yachty. Yachty's the man. Part of me is like, yeah, of course things are different without Yachty. But also, he was gone for half of last year too.
He didn't even really seem like he wanted to be here.
Yeah, he was with his basketball team. So we had Andrew Kisner started 100 games last year,
right?
So it feels a little overblown to say it's like it's exclusively because of the lack of Yachty, but people love their leadership narratives, and I think everyone who's ever been a part of any group thing, like, it definitely helps to have those guys, those people who rally the troops and are sort of the, like, represent what you're trying to do, and model that behavior, and obviously Waino is one of those guys. Personally, I'm like, isn't that also Goldie? Isn't that also Arenado? Isn't that also probably Edman? Like, it's not like we're short of any, like, experienced big league people, but as fans, it's hard to compare anyone to Waino.
It'll be curious when Waino does leave. I'll be curious to see if there are stories start popping up around how, like, Arenado is now feeling the responsibility to take over the clubhouse, and he just has that. That's what he did in Colorado. He just has that personality a little bit more than Goldschmidt does. Although Goldschmidt does seem more, ever so slightly more gregarious this year than he has in the past. Maybe winning that MVP has lightened him up a little bit. I
Yeah.
don't know, but be curious if we
Goldschmidt,
hear any stories.
yeah.
And
He
I'm
seems
curious.
to me the type of guy who's going to like walk up to you, it's like you're having lunch and he like sets his tray next to you and he sits next to you at the
Yeah,
table, instead of like across from you and
right.
just starts like, you know, so that swing today, how'd you feel about that? And you're like, oh
Yeah,
shit, I'm being taught by Goldie. Whereas like
yeah,
Arenado is gonna come and be like, where is he? I need to talk
yeah.
to this guy, and start throwing out advice or whatever.
Yeah, and it's probably important to have both of those voices, really. And kind of back to what you're talking about, like I do think that people can get caught up in the leadership narrative and what that means and so on and so forth. But like you said, if that is helping people off of the field feel more comfortable with their position in the clubhouse, it makes sense. I think that if you're feeling better off the field, that you play better on the field. So I think there's truth
Yeah.
to all that. I mean, there's a reason why like Nelson Cruz at 42 years old is signed with the Padres. It's not because he's the best right-handed hitter and he has to be a DH right now. It's because he's a guy that's been there and done that. Him and Juan Soto have a relationship, and that is valuable enough to give him a roster spot. Also, I think he's hit a few dongs this year too, so that goes a long way too. But you know what I'm saying? Like they could
Yeah.
probably
For a long
find a
time.
different right-handed hitter than
Yeah.
Nelson Cruz.
For a long time with the Cardinals, that was the supposed role of the backup catcher when Yachty was truly in his prime, and we were just getting these guys that were like, we're gonna play 3 games this year. It was
Yeah,
always like clubhouse presence, clubhouse presence.
right.
Jason LaRue is fine, but everyone loves to be around him, and he's like a great motivator and bench guy. And
Yeah.
a lot of these backup catchers go on to be coaches and things like that too because of that personality type.
Yeah. Um, okay, so I did want to bring up one other thing before we talk about Wilson. Um, and you see it here written on the outline, Nate. I'm
Yeah, a little
proposing.
controversial take because a lot of people feeling different than this right now. So let's hear it.
I think Jordan Hicks needs to be off the team. At the
Wow.
very least, off of the big league roster. I think he needs to go down. It's too unpredictable. He's being used late in games, which I don't like. It makes me feel uncomfortable when he comes in. He has a nine walks per nine walk rate right now. He is also striking out 14 people per nine. But all of his numbers look bad. I understand that he's made some adjustments. He's had a little bit of success the last couple of days. He is currently taking up, in my opinion, Guillermo Zuniga's roster spot, who, after a great performance striking out Mike Trout easily, is how it looked, was sent back down to AAA to kind of keep cooking. And Andre Palat, we'll talk about all the roster movement a little bit later, but it's just not working for me. I'm over it. I know we've got a couple of games of success behind us right now, so it's maybe not the best time to bring it up, but I can't. It stresses me out too much. I'm tired of watching it. He doesn't know where the ball is going, and I don't know. I guess that's
Yeah.
just how I
Well,
feel.
the problem is that he has no options. So you're basically saying Jordan Hicks should no longer be a Cardinal
Yeah,
because there's not really a choice other than that. I think you can guarantee that someone would pick him up if they try to put
absolutely.
him through
Yeah,
waivers. If he even accepts the designation for assignment, which he said he would not when they tried to do it earlier in the year. So it's a tricky call. I mean, he's the high risk, high reward guy, and they obviously want nothing more than for him to pitch high leverage situations because immediately upon looking slightly better, he's been thrust into high level situations again.
right.
I've been feeling more positive about him. I do agree with you that I would rather see Zuniga right now than Jordan Hicks. I just think they're a little hamstrung with what to do with him, unless you're just straight up get him like he shouldn't be a Cardinal anymore. Is how you're
Well,
feeling.
Here's the deal. This is his last season under contract. His rookie contract is up after the end of this year. The guy's walking, like I said, nine per nine. Last year he walked 5 per 9, and in limited time before the year before that, he was walking 9 per 9. Very limited time though, so really not super relevant to this conversation. He can't find the strike zone. The Cardinals need all the help in the world as being efficient. Guillermo Zuniga has the arm, among with other guys too. It doesn't need to just be him. The Cardinals are not in a position where they can let this guy just figure it out over 60 plus innings in the big leagues. And I don't know. They've had 5.5 years with him. They've failed to develop him properly. I don't I don't anticipate anything is going to change here soon. And I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if the Dodgers pick him up and he becomes an ace or something like that. But the Cardinals, like I said, they've had their time. The window's closing, and at this point, he's just taking up a valuable spot in the bullpen.
Yeah, if they caught him, he goes to the Rays and is suddenly one of the best relievers in baseball.
Yeah.
They just plucked some dude from another team that they cut after he gave up like 9 runs in 6 innings or something like that. The Rays picked him up and he threw like 4 scoreless for the Rays. it's so frustrating. Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
they're good at player dev. The Cardinals haven't been for pitching at
yeah.
least.
I don't feel as strongly about it as you do, but it's hard to argue with your point. I mean, we haven't really seen a consistently successful Jordan Hicks for quite a while now. And the fact that he is a free agent after this year makes you wonder, what is it all for at this point? You know, we should be looking at uh, the Cardinals need to be playing for 2023, but they at this point should have a little bit in their back pocket of what is 2024 and beyond look like. And Jordan Hicks, unless they fancy the idea of him bouncing back and then they extend him,
Yeah.
it's not really worth it right now. So I do see your point in that.
I just feel like, and I get it. I'm intoxicated by the tools as well. Like the guy's big, strong, throws 103 with movement. Of course, you want to
Yeah.
hold on to this guy, but like if it wasn't if we weren't in the middle of the 6th year of trying this out and failing, I wouldn't be saying this. I would say let it ride, let it ride. But the fact that he won't go to the minors, find the strike zone, and then come back up, and the lack of performance in the first month is just, I don't know. I've hit my limit, I guess, on my Jordan Hicks budget.
Was he a catcher at some point? Maybe he can play catcher.
There
A
you
lot of
go.
these guys played at
Who
some,
can't?
yeah.
Cardinals bring up anyone. Whatever.
Yeah. We got 3 of them. I think we need a 4th and a 5th catcher.
This team running
You
3
want to talk
catchers on
about?
the 26 man is
You want
ridiculous.
to?
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it. Oh man. Yeah, so if you somehow missed this, it's hard to imagine that you're a Cardinal fan who's listening to a Cardinal podcast and you missed this, but to give I guess a slight recap of the situation, and Ben, please fill in where I miss.
Yeah.
The Cardinals suddenly announce uh, uh, through press questions that Wilson Contreras is not going to be starting at catcher very much for quite a while until he can figure out some things about how the way we do it here. Incredibly vague.
Yeah.
They say he's going to be starting in the outfield and the DH. The next day, Mozeliak comes out and says, no, he will not be starting in the outfield. He will be a DH. And that is essentially what we've seen from him as since that day. Now, some further clarification. The best I can tell is that the Cardinal pitching staff has been very unhappy with how he's been calling games, in particular with 2 strikes, which is something that we have all seen, is that the
Yeah.
Cardinals 2-strike approach has been trash. It is as if the 2-strike approach has been lob a softball down the middle, because that has
Yeah.
been how it's been going for quite a while. It's been one of the bigger sources of the problems of the Cardinals. And so they have had such a problem with his game calling. And because with the pitch clock, they don't have time to wave him off. They don't have time to have that little pitcher catcher back and forth. They just have to take whatever he chooses.
My God.
They're putting the blame on him,
Yeah.
and they want him to do whatever this guidance is that they're trying to say it is, and they're going to have Kisner catch until he figures out the Cardinal way or whatever bullshit. It's been incredibly vague and incredibly frustrating. I know you've got a full rant ready here. He's been keyed up right now. He's about to pop. I'll just say, like, isn't this why people call games from the bench? Like, the whole point of when Contreras is that he's a good catcher who hits extremely well. As just a DH, he just slots right into the middle of all of our morass of other, like, above to slightly above average hitting. So, Ben, what do you got to say?
Okay. I'm going to try to take a measured approach to this. I'm going to try to keep calm, but I have so many issues with the way that the Cardinals have handled this situation. The first issue that I have is that it's extremely well documented that the Cardinals, Ollie, Mo, and others have been talking to Wilson Contreras since January about game calling, gameplay, what that all looks like, what his role in the organization is going to look like. So they've had months and months to figure this out. Wilson,
they had him skip the World Baseball Classic in order to do it.
Well, at least it was reported that he was like, I'm going to skip this because I want to spend more time with my pitchers, with the organization to understand how this all works. Right? That's great. The Cardinals have, if any team has seen Wilson Contreras play outside of the Cubbies, it's been the Cardinals. He's been in the Central Division his entire career. He's played almost 20 games a year against the Cardinals, not to mention all the other, the analytics, the video, everything like that. If any team in baseball other than the Cubs should understand what Wilson Contreras brings to the table, it should be the Cardinals, not to mention that they've just spent the last however many months with him.
Right.
So the game calling, if the game calling is a problem, that is if it's like if a teacher, if the whole class fails the test, it's not the class's fault. It's the teacher's fault because the teacher did a shit job of teaching whatever it was. If you've got this much time with Wilson Contreras, we're a month into the season, and you decide he's not doing what you think he should be doing, pull him to the side and say, this is exactly the program that you need to be on. Hey, Wilson, our expectations are you do this, this, and this. And then I guarantee he will say, okay, I'm going to do that. Don't just let it like him kind of waft in the wind doing his thing. If it's not, like, redirect him immediately. The fact that, clearly they're not talking to Wilson Contreras because he learned about this all through the media, and it was all this kind of weird whirlwind. He calls up Yachty, says, hey, Yachty, what do you think's going on here? Yachty apparently says, well, the pitchers aren't executing pitches. I agree. I think Wilson agrees. And I think the fact of the freaking matter is that, like, Wilson, maybe you don't love what Wilson's calling, but Wilson Contreras in his career has never called a middle hanging slider.
So it's a shit execution. And so I guess, like, the most, like, empathetic view of the pitcher's standpoint would be that they don't agree with the call. They don't have a chance to return their opinion. And so when they're about to make the pitch, they are not as focused as they should be, and they don't execute properly. But boy, howdy, is that a mental leap to give them that? And even if that is the case, that is a bullshit opinion, and it is on the pitcher to execute. So it's a bunch of pitchers who are having a horrible start to the season. They're looking for anyone to point to, and they found this one little thing in the new catcher, and they've decided that that's the problem, not us as a pitching staff.
Yes. Another thing I want to break up. We just talked about how Wilson Contreras has exceeded our expectations.
He's been great.
From a defensive standpoint. He's been hitting just fine. I think right in line with what we expect. He hits the ball hard and he sprays it all over the place. He's doing exactly that. Not to mention, I think he's been above average on the bases with his speed and just kind of game awareness. So He's been better than we expected. What did the Cardinals expect him? Did they expect him to completely change his game overnight? This is a guy we talk. It's very, very difficult to be good at hitting and good at catching. He's figured that out, and the Cardinals are complaining about it. Another point
Yeah.
that I have an issue with is kind of what you were just talking about. Jack Flaherty's throwing like shit. Steven Matz is throwing like shit. Really, the whole starting rotation, other than Jordan Montgomery, are throwing like shit. Most of those guys are on their way out. You just signed Wilson Contreras to a big contract for 5 years, the largest free agent contract that the Cardinals have ever signed with somebody outside the organization. And instead of blaming the pitchers who are executing poorly, Jack Flaherty, who is on his way out, the Cardinals front office and Ali Marmol decide to pick a fight with the guy that they just paid and who's going to be here for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Where is the sense in that? And it's fine if you do that in your clubhouse. You're talking about that but for multiple people in the Cardinals front office and management to call out Wilson Contreras publicly, and I think the fact that they removed him from his position before the first weekend back in Chicago is stupid. Their inability to read the room and just not understanding how to communicate their failures.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
mind-boggling.
it's here's how it should have gone. So let's say this is a true problem. Okay. We've got this. Wilson Contreras needs to call a better game. Cool. First of all, Wilson, we're calling your next games from the dugout. Okay. And I want you to focus on the pitch sequencing that we're making, and I want you to understand why. And after the game, we're going to talk about why we called these pitches. And together, we're going to put together a plan for you to learn why we called the pitches so you can do it on your own. But until we feel comfortable, we're calling the pitches. Cool. And also, Wilson, we're gonna make you start just a couple less games, and you're gonna DH, and that's cool because that was kind of already part of the plan. You only started like 75 games for the Cubs last year. No one will bat an eye at it if suddenly Kisner's starting 2 or 3 games a week and Contreras is DHing. If somebody asks, say keeping him off his legs. He's still adjusting to the new team, whatever it may be. Everyone says, cool, great, excited for Wilson Contreras. And then
Right.
over time, Wilson learns because he's clearly shown the ability to learn, and they ease him back into full-time catching or whatever the blend needs to be. And suddenly you've worked well with your new teammate. Wilson Contreras has learned this magical system that suddenly the Cardinals have that has never been a big deal for all of the other backup and catchers that we've had over the last 20 years. Only Wilson Contreras is the one with the problem. And it's solved, and no one knows about it,
Right.
and it's great, and we're all feeling good about Wilson Contreras. Instead, they do exactly what you've just outlined. It's incredibly frustrating, and it's like Ali Marmol calling out Tyler O'Neill on the 3rd game of the year, and he loses his starting position in center after a full whole thing about starting the. It doesn't make any sense. It's poor people management, and as you said before, you're feeling good off the field. Odds are that's going to help you feel good on the field. And if you're feeling like shit and disrespected by your team off the field, it's not going to help your on field play. Now, that being said, we've not mentioned yet that Wilson Contreras himself has been the bigger man in this entire thing by a mile. He's out there saying all the right things. He's playing hard on the field. He's like, that first game in Chicago was a ton of fun.
Oh
That's
my
the
God.
most
Asking for the booze.
yeah, that's
So
the most
good.
energetic I've seen a Cardinal player outside of Newt Bar in, like, I don't know, maybe forever,
Yeah.
right? Is like, yeah, that's what we got Wilson Contreras for. He's supposed to be this fiery leader, and you immediately 30 days into your $90 million contract with your new leader of men, you undercut his entire
Right.
everything. It's all about the handling.
Yes.
The observations, all of that might be true. It could be true. And that's fine. The team should be looking for solutions to this shitty pitching staff, but like, you can't handle it this way.
And they should be unturning every rock when you're playing this terribly. Do your due diligence. But like you were alluding to, and maybe this is Yadier Molina hangover effect, but the entire organization should be working on pitch calling. Your analytics department, your coaching staff, the pitching group, the catcher group, and the manager should be involved in game calling to some degree. So to pin this all on one person and their quote unquote preparation is complete horseshit. That's just not how modern baseball works. And the only reason I say it's the Yadier Molina effect is because there's a chance, I don't know this, but I think it's not that far of I'm not going that far out on a limb to guess that, well, maybe Yadier Molina was doing all of that and doing that on an organizational level, because Yadi is, I mean, we watched him for 20 years. He's special. He's different. So maybe there is some hangover effect of them getting used to that.
Why build a good game plan system that is repeatable and redundant to loss when all you just need is Yadier Molina?
And does it, is there could you tell me that the Cardinals got so used to Yadier Molina that they got a little lazy? I could buy that. A couple other things, and I'll calm down and I'll stop ranting here in a second. First, Andrew Knizner is never the answer. If you are having a problem with a position, Andrew Knizner is not the answer. So saying that the familiarity or whatever it is going to help the Cardinals out in the long run or the short term or whatever it is just patently wrong. He hasn't been good. We've seen him for years. He is not. I believe he shouldn't be on the major league staff. I think the Cardinals probably should have got a legitimate backup or promoted Trace Barrera or one of the other guys sooner than later so that they would have this familiarity and we wouldn't have to watch Andrew do his thing. So
yeah. I just thought about this, but there was a lot of controversy around Ivan Herrera last year, where he got called up. He's for a while now been the supposed the prince to Yadi's king. He was going to be the next guy. He gets his shot last year after Yadi goes to play basketball, and it's like an inverse Michael Jordan.
Yeah. Totally. Totally get what you're saying.
And he gets a shot, and like a weekend, they're like, he doesn't know how to game plan. He doesn't know how to call games. And he needs to go back to the minors to learn how to call games and how to prepare properly. So this is 2 in a row now that we've had these catchers that are supposed to take over the starting role, and the Cardinals have sank them because they don't feel like they call games. And I'm like, what do you even mean? What is the expectation here? They're not saying what the problem is to the press. We're having to infer this through Jack Flaherty's rants and other things like that. And it's part of me thinks they don't know what they're saying either.
Right.
It
seems like a panicked move.
Yeah. The Wainwright statement where he's like, we sat down, me and Jack sat down, we poured into him, and we're on the same page now. I know. And he said we reaffirmed to him that we want him here and that everyone is rooting for him, which is something that I don't think anyone had said to him before.
Yeah.
What do you mean we haven't said that stuff to him before? Is it really now in the middle of this controversy is the first time anyone told Contreras that we want him here?
Yeah. You don't think that 90 million over 5 years convinced him of that?
Yeah. Or I don't know, maybe Ali Marmol, if that's truly the case, maybe you should have had some sort of welcome to the team. We want you here thing. Man, it's
so okay. Yeah, I agree. I there are a couple other things I want to talk about, and I'm sorry. It makes me insane. And this is just a snide comment. I guess this is true for everybody but Jordan Montgomery, right? Jordan Montgomery is somehow succeeding in spite of Wilson Contreras having no idea how to call a game. Wow.
Or
how amazing.
Gallegos,
right.
Or Helsley. Obviously, they've all had their hiccups. Every reliever will, but
Genesis Cabrera.
Genesis Cabrera, who's having a return to form.
Yes.
All those guys.
Chris Stratton has looked great. It makes absolutely no sense. And then kind of back to a real issue that this brings up is that the reason that you supposedly sent down Jordan Walker was to get him more reps, of course, but also have your outfield kind of be solidified so that you have your guys, they're starting on a regular basis, there's a rhythm, so on and so forth. That's been widely reported. But now, when you put Andrew Kisner into the lineup, that forces Wilson Contreras to take over the DH. And then you have people like Brendan Donovan playing out of position, Nolan Gorman not DHing as often as he should, Alec Burleson sitting on the bench. It messes up the entire, like the whole strength of the Cardinals right now is the position player depth. And when you move around that position and suck up the DH, it ruins the flexibility and the true strength
Yeah.
of this roster. So
Yeah.
it is, it's such a bad move on so many levels. And I think what you said, like that should be reiterated, is the idea of you could have done this quietly. You could have pulled him out, sat him down, said, this is exactly the program you need to do. Andrew Kisner goes out there for a few games. You feel better about Wilson, and nobody's talking about this. Nobody's feelings are hurt. And you look like an organization that knows what you're doing. But the way that Ali Marmol has acted throughout this, the way that John Mozeliak has acted through this, and some of the players, Jack Flaherty calling out his catcher to the media is shit. That is a bad teammate. I mean, I talk shit on you all the time, but you know, that's kind of our fun.
It's a witty repartee, you know.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, like, also with someone as stupid as you, it has to be called out sometimes. You piece of shit.
Do you think Jack Flaherty is smarter than I am?
Wow, low bar on both sides. I generally, I don't know. I generally, until all this, I had a very positive opinion of Jack Flaherty, which is not something that I can say about you. So I don't know. I'm torn on how to answer that.
Tough question.
But really, I've really liked Jack Flaherty. I think I appreciate his outspokenness on social issues, and I appreciate the fire that he had, been seemingly bringing with him to the team. This is the first time where I've been like, Jack, dude, you need to take a step back. You have nothing to stand on right now. That little like snide press conference after yesterday's game where he's like, I'm gonna stop talking to you guys. I'm gonna stop talking to you guys about my fastball. I'm like, man, like that's part of the game. Your fastball's all over the place. People want to know. His response under all of his little snide remarks, there's kind of an answer about how he plays around with his fastball. Talk about that. That's interesting. That's literally the question.
Hey,
we just want to know.
If you were getting guys out, people probably wouldn't even bring it up. They'd be like, wow, it's cool how you changed the velocity on your fastball, but you're not getting guys out and you suck right now. So you don't get to sit there and, first off, be mean to Jimmy the Cat Hayes, who is a local legend.
Nobody is mean to Jimmy the Cat Hayes.
That's our guy. But like you said, like you don't get to be bad and then also be mean to the media and then also throw your catcher under the bus. Like you don't get to do all those things and kind of like keep your status or whatever. It's I mean, Jack's walking over 6 people per 9 right now. Jack's got a 6.18 ERA. He doesn't get to sit there and say, you can't ask me about my fastball velocity. It's Wilson Contreras' fault somehow.
It's his fault. Yeah. And in this 3-game winning streak, Michaelis didn't get out of the 5th inning, and Matt's had an okay start. But still didn't get out of the 6th. Not like it's suddenly, the pitching staff is going deep into games.
Yeah. So, I'll say, like, we saw a little improvement for Miles, but it was mostly that his sinker had life again. And I don't think that has anything to do with the catcher either. So anyways.
All right. You got any more points on here on your little list you want to get through for this, or should we move on?
The only other thing that I thought was just interesting to bring up, and I was thinking about this, I'll add extra flavor. I was walking to the coffee shop the other day. I was getting a coffee and a nice little sweet treat for myself and
nice to hear.
Lovely
nice
wife.
to hear you're walking.
Yeah, I'm walking. I can walk. I'm physically fit enough to walk right now. And I was thinking, obviously, Mike Matheny he disagreed with the front office. He was given some good teams. Clearly not a great manager. Mike Schilt was more in line with the front office. I think he was a pretty solid manager. We liked him for the most part. I
Yeah.
don't really have problems. He made some not great decisions in the playoffs sometimes,
Wore his
but
hat real low, looked kind of
yeah,
like a little goblin.
maybe a
Yeah.
strange human being, but a fine baseball manager.
Yeah.
And he was more in line with the front office. Ali Marmol is essentially a company guy, right? He is. I think he might as well be in the front office. I don't really have a problem with that, but it did make me think about the idea of like, is there value in the manager being less simpatico with the front office? Is it okay, or is there a value add to somebody who is questioning upper management's decisions, who is pushing back on those ideas, and is the reason that we found ourselves in the situation that we're currently in because those two that group of people are so lock in step? Is there an echo chamber going on? Are they too insular? Would the team benefit from having a voice really anywhere in management, from the manager all the way up to president of baseball operations, that hasn't been in the Cardinals organization since like you and I were in grade school?
Yeah.
And I don't know the
Uh,
answer to that, but I just thought that it
yeah.
was, me walking around thinking about baseball.
Walking on your tiny little Colorado sidewalks. Yeah,
It's a very specific comment for one person.
So in a vacuum, or like theoretically, yeah, 100%. I mean, that's part of the reason why you're supposed to have an on-field coach, because they're supposed to get the game on a day-to-day level and be able to communicate the needs of the players back up to management,
Right.
and be able to rally, motivate, and make in-game decisions based off of their understanding of the current moment. Mozeliak can't know about someone's like rough morning or what.
Right.
Like, there's the human side of it that the manager is supposed to be there for, and there needs to be that pushback on management, basically more appropriately informing the higher level management about like the needs and what's happening on the ground. And
Right.
if they're just following the what's being handed down, the like data set that's being handed down to them by senior management, then yeah, you're missing a component to the whole
Right.
thing. Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm not necessarily calling for Ali to be fired, or really anyone to be fired. But the
Well, the problem
Cardinals,
with with what you're if Marmol being fired is not going to solve the problem, if Mozeliak is just going to bring in the
right.
the next Marmol, right? Schilt was an attempt at the next Marmol. He seemingly was fired for disagreeing with the general with Mozeliak's approach, and unless DeWitt is either going to fire Mozeliak, which seems like Mozeliak, the way he's gaining power, it seems like he's more likely to fire DeWitt somehow than
He
the other way around.
I was listening to Will
Like,
Leach the other day, and he talked about how anytime that Mozeliak addresses the press and the people and everything like that, it's like he's coming down from on high and like handing over stone tablets, and doesn't really answer any questions. There is a weird, and I think it's just John Mozeliak is a weird, awkward person who's
he's a
very,
Muppet.
yeah, who's really smart at one thing, but I don't know. Like you listen to Alex Anthopoulos talk, and he talks about how much he wants to win and he cares about the players, and they're always trying to do this. And Mosaic kind of like, oh well, we got to stay on
Well,
program. Yeah, you do.
there's
Yeah.
two Mozeliaks here now.
Damn it! I didn't even mean to do that. I just fell into it because of you. So yeah, I don't know. Mosaic isn't going to get fired, like you said. He is,
Yeah.
as locked
They
in
have to be
as
convinced to hire. Like, I do think like if Marmol is let go, like the only logical move to actually shake something up, to actually try something new within the Cardinal organization, would be to hire an existing successful manager and give him the room and respect
like
to
a
actually make decisions.
like a Bruce Bochy type, like
Yeah, like
bringing, obviously he's got a job, but somebody who
somebody
has
like that.
cemented
Yeah,
their legacy, yeah, and still relevant, not like
yeah,
Tony La
a
Russa.
legacy manager.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I think about, if we would have hired Terry Francona instead of hiring Mike Matheny, obviously there were some good years there, and the Cardinals haven't been bad by any means, but I do wonder, in that alternate timeline, what the Cardinals would look like. And, Terry Francona just
yeah.
brings a different level of authority and credibility and bullpen management and, all those things. So
That's
I
a
don't
good
know.
one. I did learn recently though, and I didn't actually know this because I think a lot of us look back to that as like, man, I wish we would have hired Terry Francona. But I didn't know this until very recently. But did you realize he took a year off? He didn't work that year and basically told everyone that he wasn't even really seeking a job that year.
Right.
He wanted a year off for his health. So they weren't ever going to actually get Terry Francona that year. But you could conceive of maybe an idea where they like do a little stopgap manager and then
Yeah.
hire Terry Francona. But that's typically not what the Cardinals do.
I mean,
So
that's
that
that's
not
probably what
not to
Mike
call out
Matheny should have been. Yeah.
should have been. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So all right. Well, we still have some other things that we want to talk about, but
Woof. I
obviously
need a cigarette
that
or
was
something.
I need to start smoking. Um I need a new vice.
Yeah.
Baseball's not doing it. All right. So before we jump into our next stuff, we do want to remind people that the show is supported on Patreon, patreon.com/talking about birds. We work every week to bring you this show. We love it, but we also really appreciate the support that we've received. And if you enjoy the show and you want to support us directly, consider joining that patreon.com/talking about birds. Subscribers at any level get access to a private Discord. We call it the Bird Scored. Tweet, tweet, baby. We're having a good time in there. It's been a nice little refuge during this losing streak. I won't lie and say it's just been a bastion of positivity, but it's been nice to connect with other Cardinal fans in a more personal space and actually get some back and forth, unlike a Twitter or whatever, where you're just throwing your thoughts out into the void and you don't know if anyone sees it. We're all in there in the Bird Scored, happy to talk about Cardinals 24/7. And we're going to be doing some like live game watching together here soon, voice channel or video channel. We're talking about doing some meetups. If that sounds like fun to you, get in the Bird Scored. It's cheap, and we really appreciate those who have already. We also appreciate people who take the time to leave us a review in their favorite podcast platform. It really does help. Thank you. Ben, if people want to find us online elsewhere, where can they do it?
Yeah, all the socials. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds. You can follow us on TikTok. We're doing TikToks where I put
We're
up.
doing a TikTok.
Yeah, if you want to see our faces and our mouths flap around incoherently, you can find us there on the TikTok. If you have any thoughts, questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms, please send them to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. Also, point out that we are on Spotify. So if you want to listen to us on Spotify, check us out there. If all that sounds like too much, just go to go to talkingaboutbirds.com. That's talkingaboutbirds.com at talkingaboutbirds.com. There, I fixed it
All
there at the
right.
end.
There you go. All right. We've got a handful of roster moves that we
Woof.
wanted to run through. Yeah. So Ben, why don't you run us down the line and we'll just touch on them as we go.
Isn't it funny that a team in an 8-game losing streak has a bunch of roster changes all of a sudden? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Right.
I'll just run through these dating back to our last episode. James Nail was recalled to the Cardinals from the AAA team. Juan Yepez is on the Major League team as well. Tyler O'Neill goes to the 10-day DL IL, with lower back strain. Jake Woodford hits the 15-day IL with a right shoulder inflammation. I question the legitimacy of that injury. This is how you should
Oh,
handle a player who is not performing as you might expect, rather than throwing them under the bus. Give them a nice little
yeah,
IL stint that may or may not be real. Um, as I referenced earlier, Guillermo Zuniga was optioned to the Memphis Redbirds. The Cardinals called up Trace Barrera from the Redbirds. He is now the third catcher on the active roster. Adam Wainwright was activated off the 15-day injured list, as we talked about earlier. Taylor Motter was designated for assignment once again. He did accept that assignment and is now at AAA, so he's still in the organization. And in corresponding moves, the Cardinals sent down lefty flamethrower Jojo Romero for Mr. Andre Palante. We'll see, I guess, on that final one. Jojo was okay. Obviously, the Cardinals like Palante. He has reverse splits, his ground ball machine. I think it makes some sense. He had an okay outing yesterday. I guess we'll see how that all goes. But yeah, lots of injury or lots of transactional updates and lots of movement. Obviously, kind of on the outer rim of the Cardinals roster right there. I think the biggest news is Tyler O'Neill, the lower back
yeah,
strain. Obviously, his whole focus the last 2 years, 3 years really is staying healthy. Hopefully, this is something where he just hits the minimum, comes back, starts hitting. I'm going to say this until it comes true. I believe in Tyler O'Neill. He's going to have a good
yeah,
year. But kind of frustrating to see him back on the IL already.
yeah. A lot in there, but like you said, this is what a team should be doing. I mean, teams are doing this anyway, but let alone in a team that is struggling so hard. We need to be updating the fringes. You gotta have three catchers on a struggling team. It's
That
you know
that's
it's
not to get
no,
back
Ben, we're
in,
done.
but he's so bad at catching that he can't even act as your backup catcher. Sometimes you had to call up Trace Barrera. He's that you can't put him back there. It's
You can't.
impossible to put Wilson
Well, I
Contreras at his natural position.
I assume it's more like the baseball nightmare of both of your catchers are hurt and you have to have Brendan Donovan back there.
Yeah.
They because Contreras is playing every day and Kisner is back there, like it's still incredibly unlikely, but it's more likely than it normally would be for your two primary catchers to get hurt
Yeah.
in a single game. So they feel like they have to carry a third just in
Man,
case. But it's still like, yeah, it feels
the
bad.
the fact that Andrew Kisner is taking at bats, and that means that Juan Yepez is not taking at bats, makes me want to jump into traffic.
It's not great. It's not
It's
great.
not great.
I agree. Tyler O'Neill, yeah, it's a bummer. That's the biggest one in there. Hopefully,
Yeah, sorry.
it's not too
Back on
long.
track. Yeah.
Everything else is pretty normal. Hopefully,
Yeah.
some of these changes to the bullpen can stick and help. And hey, we say Yepez. We're happy to see him back on the. He is a big league hitter. He should
He
be on a
is.
big league team. So. All right, we've got two series coming up.
Yeah.
First one, hey, this is fun. Going back to Fenway, Ben and I, we went to Fenway last year and we watched one of the games against the Cardinals Red Sox in Fenway Saturday night. It was beautiful. We got like a crazy, perfect Boston experience. Neil Diamond literally was there and did the whole
Yeah.
thing.
That was
Pujols
amazing.
got handed some stuff by David Ortiz. Like it was the full ride.
Yeah.
So we can have a little nostalgia for a year ago in this upcoming series. But what are you expecting out of the Boston Red Sox in this series, Ben?
Man. So the Red Sox are kind of a fun team right now. Um,
Yeah.
their pitching is garbage. They're honestly a lot like the Cardinals right now, except for they're just a little more successful.
Well,
But their
Chris
pitching
Sale
is
is kind of bouncing back, but still.
yeah, and he's still Chris Sale. When you're throwing that hard from that far out on the left hand side, like it's just never going to be easy. But throughout, Tanner Houck's got a 5.26 ERA. Chris Sale's got a 6.3. Nick Pavetta's got a 6.2. Corey Kluber has a 6.2. That being said, Kenley Jansen has changed his arm angle and is having one of the best seasons he's had in a really long time. He has an ERA plus of .565 right now. So
Pretty good.
their bullpen has been okay. Really, though, the story is about that offense. Masataka Yoshida, the import from Japan, who I thought the Red Sox overpaid, has been playing incredibly. He has got a 901 OPS right now, hitting a lot of home runs. He's not striking out. He's walking. They still have Rafi Devers. Alex Verdugo's playing really well. Justin Turner, the new addition, has been a positive add. Connor Wong is playing really well. And Tristan Casas is we talked about this a while ago, but he's a guy that could pop a bunch of home runs at any time.
Mm-hmm.
So the offense is really solid. It's pretty deep. Their defense is okay. But this team can score a lot of runs. What you would expect to see is a couple of blowout type games, or not blowouts, but kind of shootouts, I guess is the right word. And we'll see, but it's not going to be easy. They've been playing above what I expected them to play. They're 26-12 right now. So they're a good team. They're playing well. The Cardinals are catching them at the wrong time right now.
Yeah, and Fenway is just one of those stadiums, it's like you just never know, right? And their defense is going to be more comfortable playing in left field than ours and just playing off the wall. So we've seen some historically bad Cardinal games in Fenway. As I flash back to the 2013 World Series nightmare, and we saw like the one good game there last year. We lucked out; they crushed them on that Saturday night. So
we just need to go to every game.
That's a great point. Hey, the until recently, the last home run Arenado had hit was when you and I were at the game in early April.
Ugh,
so
that's a bummer.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I have a love-hate relationship with the Cardinals playing the Red Sox. It just makes me sad about 2013 over and over again. But it's what a fun ballpark to see them play in. So. And then after that, we have a meaningful series.
Yeah.
We have the Brewers coming to St. Louis for a 3-game set. We've been saying this all year, but if ever there was a time for the Cardinals to really turn it on and make a statement, these are exactly the games that they have to do it in. You cannot lose games directly against the Brewers. The only shot that they have at taking this division is beating the crap out of the Brewers and then hoping that both teams just sort of, float against everyone else. It's the only chance you got. So they got to do well in this series.
Yeah. And, like Nate was saying, the Brewers have been good, not great. Their offense is kind of what we expected it to be. Rowdy Tellez is their best hitter this year and probably will be all year. Other than that, it's kind of, it's kind of scrubby. William Contreras, who we talked about a couple of times, he's having a nice start to his Brewers career. Outside of that, Willie Adames is fine. Brian Anderson is fine. Jesse Winker isn't really hitting. Christian Yelich is just not. It's crazy to me. He's just not going to come back. I guess I don't know.
He's hitting the ball well, but just not. He's not the power threat he used to be. He's going to get on base.
Launch
angle.
He's steal. Right.
Yeah.
That's a problem for them. And, even though Brandon Woodruff is still injured, the pitching group is still really good. The Cardinals have been able to get to Freddie Peralta time and time again. We'll see if that's possible. Corbin Burns is not the best pitcher in the entire world right now. That's a good thing to take advantage of. But Wade Miley has looked really good so far earlier this year. And they still have Devin Williams at the back of the bullpen, who might have the best single pitch in baseball still. That changeup is just nuts. And he throws 96, 97. So, we all know the Brewers. I don't think there's too much else to break down other than just calling out the importance of this series, especially if the Cardinals can keep this riding. And, I believe that when the Cardinals are playing well, they match up really, really nicely against the Brewers because it's really just getting through that starter, and you should be able to win the game after you get that starter out of the off the mound. But we'll see what happens. And hopefully they don't get the bullpen and the pitching staff doesn't get too worn out by their trip to Boston. But we'll see.
Yeah. I think it's interesting the Brewers went and traded for Jesse Winker and then basically immediately stuck him in a platoon.
Yeah.
I know there's some data behind that, but it doesn't feel like Winker's that far removed from being a pretty good all around hitter. And I think like a lot of people saw that acquisition as adding a new bat right into the lineup, and
Yeah.
he's just not playing as much as I would have expected.
Yeah. Their offense, I mean, it's easy to complain when you're a Cardinals fan and the team isn't playing as you expect them and everything like that. But I think it'd be more frustrating to watch a team like the Brewers, even though they are winning. That offense is just like kicking and scratching and clawing for every little run that they can get. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah. There are a few things more boring to watch than a bad offensive team.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
So
with bad pitching, you're at least like, oh, come, you're just like your heart is sinking and it's like all bad outcomes. But the bad hitting, you're just like, ugh. Especially with a pitch clock now
yeah,
where innings are like 2 minutes if it's a particularly bad offense. You're like,
yeah,
all right, here we go. We got the heart of the lineup coming up, and then it's like SpongeBob meme, like 45 seconds later, and it's like,
yeah.
innings over. Like, well, shit. Okay. Well,
We
that was
tried.
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
And what's funny is like Rowdy's their best hitter, but he's not even on their WAR leaderboard. They're just a weirdly configured team.
yeah. And have been for a while.
Yeah.
So yeah, should be some hopefully good and fun series. We'll see.
Yeah.
Let's run through some league news. Ben, what do you got?
Yeah, man, this is the year of starting pitcher injuries. I swear. Astros Luis Garcia is undergoing Tommy John surgery later this week. Obviously out for the season. He's a guy I like. I hate the Astros, but I like Luis Garcia. Kind of sad to see that, but just the
Yeah.
way it's going this year. Pitchers are going down. Speaking of pitchers
Yeah.
going down, Matt Harvey announces retirement. The Dark Knight
Batman.
is the saga is over. Um, I don't know. I always kind of liked Matt Harvey. I don't know why exactly, but I kind of liked him. I was kind of pulling for him. He kind of had this cocky attitude, and then that kind of all got dropped. And then, of course, he got caught up in the drug scandal with the Angels, and I don't know, he had an interesting career at the very least.
Yeah, he's like one of the most well-known pitchers of the last decade and had like a good season. it's
Yeah,
it's pretty wild. I mean, he of course looked like he was going to be the best pitcher in baseball, and that he was a part of that Mets run that went to the World Series. So like, there's a lot that surrounded it. But like, yeah, we've been hearing about Matt Harvey for a decade now, and
yeah.
little of it has been him actually pitching to any sort of successful degree.
Yeah, in 2013, he threw 178 innings, the 201 FIP, and over 9 strikeouts per nine. He was 24 years old and got injured, had an okay year after that, and then just kind of never really got it back together. Baseball's hard.
Yeah. There's
Um,
that like the mid 2010s rotation of the Mets that
yeah,
everybody just goes back to, where it's like at one moment they had so many guys. It's kind of like the Tigers had that at one point too, where like, it was like Scherzer and Verlander, and
right,
it's like you just look back at these rotations that were like, how did they have all these guys at the same time? But they weren't who they are now
right.
either.
I'm going to we got some good news and some bad news. Liam Hendricks begins his minor league rehab after coming back from non
Yes.
Hodgkin's lymphoma. The crowd went crazy. He's excited to be back. I mean, it seems pretty
Did it
realistic that he's going to be pitching in the big leagues this year. It's pretty exciting.
It's not even realistic. Like, they're saying within a couple weeks, probably.
It just
Like
breaks my
it would,
brain.
yeah, it'd have to be some sort of like injury that stops it at this point,
Right.
because everything else is on track. His velocity is a little down, Fair. He
Yeah.
just went through several rounds of chemo. So the rehab assignment might take a little while as he gets back to strength. They're basically treating it like spring training for him,
Right.
which is, exactly right. It's incredible. Also adorable story. I don't know if you saw this, his quote, rightfully so. Everyone's losing their mind for him, all the love in the world for him, the other team, everybody, just an outpouring of love and support. And he said, "This has been challenging for me because I pitch with anger, and it's really hard to be angry when you're surrounded by so much love." It's like, oh,
That's
what a
amazing.
good guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In less good news, of course, Vida Blue, legendary,
Yeah.
Hall of Fame level pitcher, multiple, he won an MVP and a Cy Young, multiple World Series, just kind of an all timer, I think. And actually, he's not a Hall of Famer. Why did I think
No.
he was in the Hall of Fame? Um,
He's one of those guys with the like incredibly high peak,
yeah,
but not the like
man.
longevity to get in.
When he was in 1971, he was 21 years old. He had a 1.82 ERA, 312 innings pitched. He led the league in FIP, WHIP, hits per nine, strikeouts, won the Cy Young and the MVP. And again, he was 21 years old. He passes away at the age of 73, and just bad news. Somebody who I think anecdotally assumed he was in the Hall of Fame, but
Yeah,
wasn't.
he's close, right around 50 WAR.
Yeah.
So he just needed a couple more of those peak seasons to get over that threshold. But definitely a dude who had an impact and was an incredible baseball player.
And then I got a couple of A's news bits. Glenn Kuiper, longtime broadcaster for the A's, drops a racial slur live on television, and has been suspended indefinitely. If you saw it, I would say don't go find it if you haven't seen it. The fact that he was talking about the Negro League Hall of Fame makes it even sadder. And I would say, Bob Kendrick, who is like one of my favorite people who is in baseball but not in baseball, of course, had a very thoughtful and I'll leave it there. A very thoughtful thing to kind of say about the situation. But dude, you're on TV. What the hell's wrong with you?
Well, so what it tells you, I don't want to overreact to that or overreact to that, but what it tells you is that this is something that he's been generally comfortable saying before, right?
Yeah.
You don't say that in your job in front of millions of people if it's not something that is at least just sort of part of your brainwave, your lexicon. It's like the Cincinnati Reds guy.
Yeah.
He didn't know he was on a hot mic because that's just the thing that he says. It's the type of person that he is. So like, I don't, it's incredibly telling.
Yeah.
Right.
So bye. Probably for a long time. In other Oakland A's news, man, they can't catch a break right now. Oakland A's and Bally's Corp have an agreement in place for the team to build a $1.5 billion stadium in Vegas. It is going to be on the site shared with the Tropicana Casino and Resort.
Put it all on red.
So
Vegas, baby.
It's happening. They have a site. Yeah. And actually, I will say, looking at this 30,000 foot view, the good news about the situation that the A's and Bally's Corp have come to is that it's only going to cost the municipality of Las Vegas about $400 million rather than the traditional almost $1 billion. So it's saving the taxpayers a little bit of money. I still do not understand why we subsidize these billionaires in building these castles in their honor. But it's nice to see that it'll only be about, I don't know, a quarter or less than a quarter of the bill than closer to the whole thing. So some good news, some bad news. I guess we'll see what that all looks like.
Finally starting to get better about that. I think everyone's starting to wake up to what a bad deal it is to pay for governments and city to pay. Wow. You just like stopped me in my tracks with that one. Yeah, what a bad idea it is for a person to pay for a team or for a city government to pay for a stadium. It's a bad
Yeah,
deal.
you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Nate hates toupees.
It's a bad deal.
All right, that wraps up the league news.
All right. Well, Ben, we've had a good time today. We've been ranting, we've been raving, we've been frustrated, and I thought it would be fun. I thought it'd be nice if we lighten the mood a little bit. We have a little bit of just like stupid, dumb sort of fun. And today,
I hate you so much.
Oh no. Is that going to be your last words, Ben? We have to get out of here.
I need to explain to this, ladies and gentlemen, that he does the bit. He acts surprised. I'm looking at his face right now. He acts surprised. He hits the audio cue. He knows when it's coming.
Oh no!
Oh my
I
God!
didn't see this coming. Yeah,
method
that's
acting
right.
on this stupid game. Is it Nate? Is it time to play Card Shark?
That's right. It's time. We're here with another round of Card Shark.
Wow.
I've got a set of cards from the 2013 Topps Series 1 cards.
I've been meaning to tell you the cards that you won in our pitch off while you were in Denver. You left them in the back of my truck.
I know.
They're my cards now.
I was looking all over for them. I could have sworn I put them into a certain pouch in my bag, and like, I guess you got in there with your buttery little fingers.
I
and
found them in the
sniped them
back
out.
seat of my truck, which you did not ride in, so you were clearly being careless with them, idiot.
It clearly fell out when I dumped my whole suitcase over the back seat of your car when we were on our way
right.
to the airport. Yeah. Okay. So here's how this works. I've got a set of cards here from the series I already said. I'm going to say the name of the player. Ben tries to tell me what team they play for and what their position is.
Yeah.
So you get a point for each. And some of these guys have changed teams since these cards were printed. So I will give you either the team that they are on displayed in the card, or if you get who they are on now. Okay. All right. So
thanks, Nate.
starting it. I am a kind baseball god. All right. Starting out, we've got Cal Mitchell.
Crap. Damn. The only Mitchell I can really think is that guy that plays center field for the Brewers. It's not him. Yikes. So I'm going to guess this guy is a relief pitcher. And I'm going to guess he is a Mariner.
Wrong and wrong.
Damn
Cal
it.
Mitchell is an outfielder for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Wow.
He started some games last year.
Did he?
I think he's hurt. Yeah.
Okay.
And you were thinking of Garrett Mitchell for the Brewers.
That's who. Yeah, I know him.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of anyone with the Cal Mitchell. Okay, I'm B-reffing him right now. Calvin Mitchell on B-ref, Nate. You little. Not that would help.
It's Cal. Me. He goes by Cal. It's
see.
on the card.
Okay. Yeah, he has. Okay, he's got 69 games played. He's
nice.
There's a chance I could have guessed that, but I didn't.
Yep.
All
right. This one's a little more well known. George Kirby.
George Kirby, starting pitcher for the Seattle Mariners. I like George Kirby.
That's correct. George Kirby having a great year.
A interesting fact about Calvin Mitchell: he was the 22,666th baseball player in Major League history. 666.
That is it. That is an interesting fact.
Wow. Beware.
Wow. JJ Bleday.
JJ Bleday was a Marlin, but I think he got traded or dropped from the Marlins. Did they do it? Was it JJ Bleday and AJ Puck 1-for-1 with the A's? Yeah, I'm gonna answer Marlins and A's, and I think I'm right on at least one of those.
What's his position?
Oh, what is he? A center fielder, outfielder, I believe.
Yeah, I'll just take outfielder. So
Okay.
you're right on all accounts. So I don't think it was a 1-for-1 though. I think there were other pieces included in it, but they were the sort of two former prospects,
Yeah.
top prospects in a swap, and it's working out really well for both teams. Blade is looking really good for the Athletics right now, and Puck is the Marlins closer and is kind of crushing it. So, all right, Ethan
It
Small.
was a 1-for-1 trade.
Was it one for
Yeah, I
one?
had to look
Nice.
that up. Okay, sorry. What'd you say?
Ethan Small.
Ethan. Ooh, that absolutely sounds like a baseball player. I'm gonna guess. Usually, when I don't know them, they're like some middle reliever. Although that wasn't right with Cal Mitchell. Ethan Small. I'm gonna say he's a reliever. Um, for the Reds. I don't know. That's a guess.
He is a pitcher for the Milwaukee Brewers.
What?
Now, I think he is intended to be a starter, but he has thrown in relief, so I'll give you a point for
Okay,
that.
man. Hold on to that one.
Yeah. Ooh, this card is
Oh yeah,
shiny.
he's got
Let's see.
6 innings pitched in the big leagues last year, and he had
Yeah,
11 walks per 9. I'm okay
not
not knowing
bad.
that one.
We call that the Jack Flaherty. All right. Or the Jordan Hicks.
There you go.
Sorry, Jack. All right. So I'm going to give you a piece of information on this one that I think will be helpful. So the player's name is Zach Thompson. This is not
Yeah.
the St. Louis Cardinals Zach Thompson.
Yeah, thank you. I believe the other Zach Thompson is a starting pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates.
That is correct. Crushing it. A few more here. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this guy? Have you heard about this guy? Miguel Cabrera.
Hey, there we go. First ballot Hall of Famer, first baseman, third baseman, DH, Detroit Tigers.
Heck yeah. All right. Ian Anderson.
Ian Anderson is, so I know he was with the Braves. For some reason, I have it in my head that he was traded to the Pirates, but I can't really remember that. So I'm going to say maybe I'm getting Bryce Anderson mixed up. I'm going to say Ian Anderson is a starting pitcher for the Braves. The Bravos.
You got it.
Yes.
Ian Anderson.
Is he still a Brave?
So I believe so. He had a very big 2021. He was a big breakout starter, looked like the next top guy for the Braves, and then it was really bad in 2022 and has struggled to really get back to.
Man, he is only pitched 2/3 of an inning in AAA, and he has an ERA of 54.
Yeah.
So something's going on there.
All right. Gerard Encarnacion.
Great name. Never heard of this guy.
I hope I'm saying it correctly.
Okay, Gerard.
It's either Gerard or like Harar. It starts with a J.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know this guy. So I'll just take a wild guess. I'm going to say he is a Oakland A, and he is also a relief pitcher.
He is an outfielder for the Miami Marlins.
Oh, man. Yeah, never heard of him. Sorry, Harar.
Buddy Kennedy.
That, I feel like I know him, but I don't. I'm going to say he is a Los Angeles Angel, and he's a utility infielder.
Well, he is a second baseman for the Arizona Diamondbacks. So I'll give you 1 point there because he's probably sitting in the utility spot to some degree.
Yeah, it's only like 1,200 miles off or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe less than that. Like 800.
All right, here's the last one for you, Hambone. Jimmy Erget or Herget.
Jimmy Erget.
Not Erget.
Huh.
Or Herget.
Herget?
Or Jorge.
The fact that you don't know how to pronounce his name doesn't really help me out. I think he is.
I actually know who this guy is.
Oh, you do?
I just don't know. I just don't know how to say it.
I'm gonna say that he is backup catcher for the Phillies. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know this guy.
No, he is a reliever for the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim.
Okay.
And he, because I'm a fantasy baseball, nerd, he's played a little bit of a role in their back end situation. He's been a bit of a vulture watch for saves at times. So
I love fantasy baseball.
So Ben, let's see. There was 10, 12, 14,
I did okay.
Out of a potential 20 points.
Yeah.
You got 10.
Okay. No, that sucks. I need to study baseball reference more.
I think you've been eaten by the card shark. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I wish I would have known what we were originally going to play before we were interrupted by the card shark.
Oh man, it's actually really frustrating. I wish we had more time. I put a lot of time and a lot of effort into a different game, and then the card shark showed up
next week.
Yep. Well, speaking of next week, that's when we'll be back with another episode of Talking About Birds. Hopefully, some more positives to talk about, but teach the controversy. That's what we feel here at Talking About Birds. So thank you all for listening. As always, we appreciate your time. Tell your friends, tell your moms, tell your dads, tell your dogs. Podcasts spread mostly through word of mouth, and we appreciate every time our names are in your mouth. And I guess with that, I broke myself with that one. Check out the patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. And until next week, go Cardinals.
Andrew Kisner is never the answer.
Talking about